and girls, it's time for Chapter 8, Section 1. This section is called Circumference, so let's go ahead and get our vocabulary out of the way. First of all, circumference. That's the perimeter of a circle, the distance around a circle. So imagine there's a little circle, and an ant walks all the way around the perimeter. The distance he walks, that's the circumference. Now, diameter. Diameter is the distance from one side to the other if you go through the center of a circle. So straight across. Radius. Radius is half the diameter, and it's actually the distance from the center of the circle to the outside edge of the circle. We also need to know pi. You've probably heard that before. Pi is really a ratio of circumference to diameter, but for our purposes for this class, we're going to think of pi as the fraction 22/7. Now, you may get a test where they say, use 3.14 for pi, something like that. But for the most part, just use 22/7 for pi. So now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at what diameter and radius actually mean. So here I've got a circle, and I have a line going from one end to the other of the circle, passing through the center. Well, this distance to this entire line, this is actually called the diameter of the circle, all the way across from one end to the other. The radius is from the center of the circle to the outer edge. So see the difference between diameter? Diameter is with a little d, and it goes from one end to the other, passing through the center. Radius from the center to the outer edge. Now, this radius here, if you had two of them, this side and this side, 2 radius is going to equal the diameter. So that's where this comes from. Diameter equals 2 times the radius. Or, another way to think of it is if you take the diameter and you divide it by 2, that equals the radius. So those two equations, try to commit those to memory. Let's take a look at what this looks like with numbers. Okay, so here we have 2 problems. Now, I wrote this out visually, and I also wrote it out kind of like you'd see in a word problem. So with this one right here, we have a diameter, and this diameter is 10 meters. So if the diameter is 10 meters, what's the radius? Well, you know that radius is half of the diameter, so the radius would be 5 meters. Here, we have a radius of 3 inches. If the radius equals 3 inches, what would the diameter be? Well, diameter is twice this distance, so it goes all the way across, and 3 plus 3 is 6, so diameter would be 6 inches. Okay. All right, so hopefully by now you have a pretty good handle on this. Go ahead and pause the video, see if you can do these 6 questions. Press play when you think you have the answer. Okay, this first one, we have a diameter of 14 meters, so the radius is going to be half that, 7 meters. Here we have a radius of 8 feet, so diameter is going to be twice that, 16 feet. Here we have a diameter of 23 centimeters, so the radius is going to be half that, which is 11.5 centimeters. Here we have a radius of 3 inches, so the diameter is going to be double that, 6 inches. Here we have diameter of 16 yards, so the radius would equal 8 yards. And here we have a radius of 5.2 miles, so the diameter would be double that, 10.4 miles. Hopefully you have a pretty good handle on that. Now let's take a look at how to actually work with circumference and the equations we have for that. Okay, so the first equation that we're going to work with is circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. And before we even work with this equation, remember, what does 2 times the radius equal? Well, 2 times the radius equals the diameter. So, if 2 times radius equals diameter, what that means is that we could take this 2r out of this equation and replace it with d, because 2 times r equals diameter. So we could rewrite this as c equals pi times diameter. Now we have an equation for circumference involving radius and an equation for circumference involving diameter. Let's test out this equation and see how it works with an example problem. Okay, so here we're going to find the circumference of a circle with a radius equal to 21 inches. If you want to try it on your own, pause the video, press play when you're ready. If not, here we go. So, since we're given a radius, we're going to use the equation that has a radius in it. So, our equation is c equals, circumference equals, 2 times pi times r. Now, 2 is a constant, so we're going to write 2. Now remember, for our purposes in this class, we're going to use 22 over 7 for pi, and radius, we were told, is 21 inches. Now, remember when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across with the numerators and the denominators. We can turn this into a fraction by putting it over 1, turn this into a fraction by putting it over 1. So now on top we have 2 times 22 times 21, and if you work that out, you end up getting 924. On bottom we have 1 times 7 times 1, which is 7, and when you divide this out, we end up getting 132, and our units were inches, don't forget them, and that would be our circumference, the distance around the circle. Now, if you like to cross cancel, which I recommend, instead we would have, again, 2 times pi, which is 22 over 7 for this class, times our radius of 21 inches. Make this into a fraction by putting it over 1, this into a fraction by putting it over 1. Now 7 and 21, I can divide both of them by 7. 7 goes into 7 once, 7 goes into 21 3 times. Now I have 2 times 22 times 3, that would be 132. And on bottom, 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. This simplifies to 132 inches. It doesn't matter to me which method you use, whatever you prefer. So here are 2 problems that hopefully you should understand by now. Go ahead and try them. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so for this first one, we're given a diameter, so we're going to use the formula that involves diameter, C equals pi times d. Pi, we know, is going to be 22 over 7, and the diameter is 70 inches. We make this a fraction by putting it over 1, and then we multiply. 22 times 70 is going to be 1,540, and 1 times 7 is 7. 1,540 divided by 7 is going to equal 220, and the units were inches, so this is going to be 220 inches. Hopefully you did well on that. For the next one, we've got radius here, a radius of 7/8 of a foot, so we're going to use the formula involving radius. C equals 2 times pi times radius. 2 is a constant. Pi is going to be 22 over 7, and our radius is 7/8 of a foot, so we just write the fraction 7 over 8. Very similar to the last problem that we did, the word problem where radius was 21 inches, except for instead of a 21-inch radius, we have 7/8 inch radius, or 7/8 foot radius, so we're just going to put that 7/8 in there. So, make this a fraction by putting this over 1. If you want to cross cancel, you can, you don't have to. I'm going to cross cancel here. 7 and 7, well, obviously they can both be divided by 7. 7 goes into 7 once, 7 goes into 7 once. 2 and 8, they can both be divided by 2. 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So now on top I have 1 times 22 times 1, that equals 22. And on bottom I have 1 times 4, that equals 4. 22 divided by 4 is going to equal 5.5, and our units were feet, so this is 5.5 feet. Alright, boys and girls, hopefully you understood that well, and if you get all that, you should be pretty set for this section. See you in class.